I'm going to share some pretty tough love today. I really am. And I think you need to hear it. I think some of you really need to hear what I have to say. So as I start, I just want to kind of give you some truth here, which is that this all comes from me to you from a place of love. Okay? So please hear that. Just know that everything that I create in Joyful DVM, everything that I offer through Joyful DVM, I do it because I know that you can have an amazing life. And I want you to understand how that all works. I want you to see that you have total power over your own future. So that all that said and done, for those of you guys who are hanging out there, who have gotten into the veterinary profession and then are now wearing the veterinary profession like some badge of honor for being a victim, and oh, woe is me because I chose the veterinary world, you got to stop doing that. You have to stop, because what you're doing is, as you buy into the idea that this job is really hard, that people are terrible, that work environments are toxic, that there is no such thing as work-life balance in vet med, as you buy into that, you are stopping yourself from growing into anything else. 100%. You don't want to spend your life looking back at the decisions you made as if they were bad choices. The only reason you might be doing that now is because of the way that things are going right this second in your life. And so you're just telling yourself, if I would have done something different, then I would feel that better. I would be happy. And that's not how it works, guys. It's not how it works at all. We never know what's coming next. We never know. But we have the opportunities to always build and grow toward it. And so what happens to many of us is we've worked our tails off to get into the veterinary profession, and then once we're here, and we do have experienced some of the normal stresses of this job, right? Like, we are in a healthcare profession. There are going to be some days that weigh on us a little bit. But it's when we take those days and then we make them about us, when we start believing these falsities that if we would have done better in our jobs, that our patients would have gotten better, or that the clients wouldn't have been upset. Like, if we start to take on that, then we're just going down this road of complete in control of any of it. There is very little in this life that we can control, but the thing that we can control most is what goes on within our own brains and what we do with our time. And so if you're spending your time complaining about your job, commiserating with others, if you're spending your time worrying about your student loan debt, regretting your decision to go in this profession, then just know you're only going to create more of that misery for yourself. And it doesn't have to be miserable. The only reason that you feel unhappy or frustrated or regretful right now is not because of the things that are going on around you. It's not because of your prior decisions. That's over. The only reason that you feel any of those negative things right now is because of the way that you're approaching your own life, and because you don't realize how much power you have to change it. You're the only person who can change your life if you're not happy with it right now. Most of us don't even have the slightest idea of the extreme potential that we have to do that, because we've never actually learned how much power there is in just our mindset alone. We haven't learned how our brain functions. We don't understand the neuroscience behind what it's doing, and how the evolution of our brains over time, from way back in the caveman days to now modern times, how that evolution actually sets us up to not move forward. And it's just because the brain hasn't caught up yet. But you don't have to wait for it to catch up. And if you do, you're never going to get there. I'll just be real honest. You're just never going to get there. You're going to stay where you are. You're going to stay being a victim. You're going to stay being super frustrated. You're going to stay believing that it is your job that is ruining your life, or it is the profession that you chose, or the place that you live, or the people that you work with, or the student loans, or the whatever. Like, you're going to keep coming up with all these reasons that your life is terrible, as long as you don't take any ownership of your own position and don't take any action toward learning what's really going on. And the change that can happen when you start to learn that, and you start to actually understand how your brain processes information, And when you really start to understand that just by changing around the data that you provide it, actually makes a huge shift in the outcomes that you create, when you start to understand that, then hope comes back in. And you realize it doesn't matter who you work with, where you work, where you live, whether or not your patients get better, whether or not the clients say nice things to you. None of that stuff matters at all. Because then you know who you are as a human being, and you know that what you have to offer this world is of value, that you are worthy just because you exist, and that you have a purpose, even if it seems kind of unclear right now. The only way your life is ruined is if you stop moving forward. If you buy into the lie that what you have now is all you're ever going to have. That what you're experiencing right now is all you're ever going to experience. If you buy into that, you're in big trouble, my friends. You're in big trouble. And you're giving away your life. You're giving away your future. You're giving away your opportunities when you buy into that. The only thing that's going on is that you're evaluating your current situation based on past information, prior experience, what's already happened. You're trying to predict the future. And in many cases, you're completely cutting off any opportunity for the future to be better, because you're making all of that decision and you're coming to all of that opinion from what's already happened in the past. The past does not predict the future. It never has. It never has. And so if you're in a place right now where you're really frustrated and you really don't feel like you're ever going to get there, wherever there is, first notice that if you're saying that to yourself, I'm never going to get there, then there is still something that you want, right? Because there wouldn't be a there otherwise. You may not know exactly what it is, but there's something. But then also recognize that maybe you just don't have all the information you need right now to move forward. And that's what I want you to hear today, is that despite all of the education that you've been through to get where you are in your profession today, what you missed out on was all the life stuff, was learning how your brain processes information. And from that creates the emotions that drive your actions. That your results are actually just the outcome of your own actions and not at all related to the things that happen around you. And until you start to understand how that whole process works, how your brain processes information and then drives you into action from there, until you understand that, you're just left believing that it is the things that happen in and day out. It is the place you work. It is the coworkers, the bosses, the clients, the cases that don't get better. You're left with nothing but that to believe is creating what you have. And it's not. It's not at all. You're like missing the whole point. So where do you learn it, right? Where do you learn it? Because if we're not teaching it in vet school, which my goal is eventually we will be, but we're not teaching it there yet. So we've basically learned all this great information to go into a veterinary profession. But then living in a veterinary profession, we don't know how to do that. We haven't been given those skills. And we try to apply our veterinary knowledge to our life. It doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work. So what you need to learn is how the brain works. What you need to learn is how your brain processes what's going on around you and turns that into what eventually becomes your own actions. Because if you learn what your brain is doing, then you also learn that you have opportunity to completely change the actions that you take, that you don't have to believe everything your brain offers you. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't, especially if right now it's telling you it's never going to get better and this is all there is. And especially right now if it's offering you these sentences like going to vet school or going to tech school was the worst decision ever, or that your student loan debt is evidence of the worst decision you ever made in your life. Like if it's offering you that, that's just total BS and it's not true.